Hello class, this is Wahid. Today is Monday 7/13/2020 and we're going to start talking about data validation, list, tuples, data dictionary, and all other question you may have. We're going to cover all of that in this session. Mostly it's going to be data validation as well as list data structure. And then I'm going to briefly discuss tuples and data dictionary and some object-oriented on Wednesday. But Wednesday we will cover data dictionary and tuples in details. And then also briefly talk about object-oriented. And then next week, which is week 6, we will cover in details object-oriented programming. So this week, as you know, last week we had some question about data validation. I prepared some information for you to know how to do data validation and error handling, and as well as we're going to discuss list because at the end of Wednesday I mentioned that list will be covered in subsequent weeks. We did not go over list as much as we should have. Even though some of the topic we discussed, we already covered part of the list, but I'll cover more in details today, list. So today's topic, we're gonna do what is data validation and how you do error handling. We're gonna do two demos of Python script that I wrote. We will introduce you to those ones. We could use PyCharm or Atoms or any interactive Python to demo that one. And we do a combination of them. Then we're going to also do Python list. With Python list, we're going to discuss Python slicing with list, how you do list slicing, and what is list comprehension. And then we go on a number of Python built-in functions, and then also how to write your own functions that is not part of the built-in functions. We could cover those ones, as well as when we compare Python with list and set and tuples, we will see the differences and compare and see what are the advantages that list provides in terms of rich built-in functions, and then the speed of tuples is much better than less because less number of methods that are available, and in addition the size of the tuple is smaller. You cannot modify the tuple in terms of data being almost a snapshot or read-only kind of data structure, versus list where you can point to any item and then modify it. So let's just go over a number of those things. Before I continue on, I would like to know if anybody has any question that they want me to address. Aside from last week, I mentioned to Victor, I believe he had a question with doing data validation, and I told him to remind me to discuss it so I could cover it. I already am looking into that one with these two examples that I'm gonna demo today. So after that one, if you still have question at the lab times, we will go through the lab activities and go over a number of other things. Does anybody have any question? Okay, looks like nobody's having question. That's good. We have 8 people already logged on. 2 more people will join in. That would be the full class. And then, I could open up a PyCharm. I'm going to close it here. So I will just show you. For example, when I installed PyCharm, it came out from JetBrains. Like I mentioned last time, I showed you how to go to JetBrains website and then download the community version, install it. Now this is installed. I can click here, or I could type in here PyCharm. So when I go to PyCharm here, the community version is installed, and I'm just going to start that one. By default, when it comes out, it comes out with a nice IDE. IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment. By now, you all know about IDEs and what they provide. But today, you will see some examples of them with PyCharm community version, which is free. And the professional version is you have to pay for it. But for community version, is all free. And it does a lot of the functionality that the professional does. It's not that you will lose too much of functionality, but when you want to have your product, you know, available on the market to sell something, then you might want to consider getting the community version. Other than that, you don't need to. So here is the Python PyCharm Main IDE interface. When it comes in, it just shows on the left side, on the top of the icon, welcome to PyCharm. And it lists all the projects or Python scripts on the left side that I have already open, used it. Maybe some of them last semester when I was teaching in the same class. We went through a number of those ones. But here you can have an option of creating a new project or open an existing project. So you can also do checkout from the version control, which is the Git repository from GitHub. You can do that one. But since we're a class and we're not doing like a project based on certain activity that we all incorporate our source into the Git repository, we don't need to do that one. So in this case, I can just say open an existing one or create a new project. Let's say I just go open an existing one because I have some Python script. So all I have to do is select a folder here and say, this is the folder I want to work with. And then if right now it's loading all the folders that are there. Inside here, I could just double click here and get subdirectories like a file manager. So it's really nice in some ways that you don't not losing Windows functionality if you're using it on a Windows platform, and you're not using it on a Mac functionality if you're using it on a Mac platform or a Linux platform. So here we're going to go to pasadena.edu, this one, and then we're going to go to the class for summer, CIS 012, summer of 2020, which is your class. And we go to the lectures and look for chapter of chapter 8. And notice that here I'm seeing lectures. Let me see what is, why is chapter 8, yeah. So somehow it was not showing the chapters on top. Maybe it was, I was not clicking it to browse through it. So chapter 8 is list. In order to do some kind of like demo, I prepared first data validation. This is not the data validation on a list. This is general, but you can make it on a list, variables, anything you want to do is basically your select a statement condition matching, all do the data structure that you're looking for. It is going to be happening on the your if statement or while statement or case statement or you know, doing any loop or iteration depending on which programming language you use. So let's just open this example 3.py. Once this project is loading the project, once it's loaded, it already knows based on my previous run what Python interpreter I'm running, what setting I have, everything. And this is like a quick tip. You could say don't show it next time or something, but I just don't use it as much, so I don't mind clicking one time here to do it. I'm going to maximize this window so it looks nicer with less other information on the background. Let me maximize this, and this one we can leave it on the side here. It's still scanning installed packages, so it's a little bit slow. That's why it's not responding to my button clicking and saying that maximize it. Now it's loaded. Let's see if it gets it now. Yeah. So at this time, I'm just going to show you like a number of other things that when I was grading some of your assignments, I noticed that even though we talked about this Shebang Python on the Windows environment, some students, they continued using it, some students forgot to use it. It's okay if you use it on Python, a script that you're writing the extension .py, and your Windows interpreter already associate the extension .py as Python script, and it will find it. But it is a general purpose. Generally, you want to make sure your system that you're running knows what interpreter you're using. So the first line, if you're using on Windows, is Shebang Python. And then if you're using it on Linux, like last week I showed you, it is Shebang, which is this Shebang is this bang pound sign. Then slash user ben env space Python, or slash user ben Python, depending on where Python is. The fact that some people say, well, user ben env is more dynamic. So if I just on a Linux and I say user ben env and then Python, what does that do? This env is an environment variable scripts that runs and looks for a name Python, which is finds the Python on the user bin directory installed. So then dynamically it is going to find that one. If Python is on the user local bin or user S bin, it will find it there. So this env is a little bit smarter, but this is, most people say it's not hard coded. Dynamically it finds it, but the fact that we're putting user bin here with slash user bin, that's automatically hard coded. So it is just automatically looking at it. But on Windows, when you do that, so on Linux, you could do user bin env Python or user bin Python. It will work as long as Python or user bin env is on the path that you have. And on Windows, as you notice that if I just go here, clear my screen, and I type in path, I'm just seeing Python 3.7 here and Python 3.8 is there. Since that is in the path, I don't need to worry about what path it is going to find it. So this pound bangs space Python automatically finds my Python script and associated the name. So if the name is, I call it something else, if it looks at this name in this line, and then after that one is going to validate the rest of the script to make sure you have the right Python syntax. Syntactically have to be correct, and semantically and the logic has to work in order to execute something. So in this case, when it finds this one, what I was asking on your, I only cut out of 100 2 points or 3 points on something, just if, and this one was missing on every assignment that you submitted. But if you had the Shebang pound Python, I did not cut any points there. So just for future reference, to remind you, I just cut those 2 3 points or 5 points, depending on what type of other error I saw. And then when you do this one, pound Shebang Python, that is one thing. The next thing that I also cut a couple of points or something, that if people, they just did not have like a kind of like right here, like I did. So this one you could say, since I did it like this, you could just say purpose of this script, what it is, and date that it was written, what date you wrote. Some of this information that you normally include on a Python script or any other programming language, the header information, you could just write those information there and then do that. And I just don't do it on all the demo that I do because I'm not going to take the exam. I'm not answering that question that I did long time ago. But you all do. You're taking undergraduate courses, and when you are not fully following the information, other instructors say, "Well, I did not know which grade, which assignment this was for," even though you had the name with the script, but another student also had the same thing, and then they added all the information that I keep asking. So how could I just give two students 100% when one is doing everything 100%, another person is not doing 100%? So those kind of information, just be on the lookup and then try to improve your skills rather than just saying, well, I don't like this idea or that, because we're there to learn codes and how to do it the right way. Another thing is that I think it's only one student maybe did that one a couple of times or one time. And please make sure that you don't save the file name with the spaces. And I could just give you an example of those ones. When you do that one, this basically destroy your program, destroy the mindset of a programmer and everything. It is not going to work. If I just say move, let's say I say type or echo this as a test, and I just write it and greater sign this is a test. So at this time, the system, if the system is Windows, might create one file. This is a test. It might create 4 files. This one file is one file, and because this redirection is basically saying that create the file with that information. And instead of just doing that one as a test, you want to just do underscore. So this is a test, and it's much easier. Even if you just gave a long name, just be consistent with what you name it. Don't say this is a test here, and then here a space, and then dot text. That's going to throw off everything. Imagine if I do that one right now, this might just say dir, and look at what happened here. I just lost the dot text, right? Let's see, dot text is there. It is not there. But something like this, if I just move that one here and then star.text, it's there. And then again, since the name is, this one is incorrect, just give it like this, consistent. Now it's so easier to see this file name versus that. Even though it's a long name, try to avoid the long name because sometimes it's harder for people to write all that thing. So they can just do a shorter version for it. I mean, of course, you can use the wildcard character to manipulate, but when it comes to a directory structure with 1,000 files, because you're working on a big project and you have these files named incorrectly, that will mess up your program. So please be on the lookup on that one. And I did not cut recently much point on those ones. If it was like 50 points, I only cut 10 points for all the types of things that I could not run it. I had to look at the code and I say, okay, this part is good, this part doesn't have the Python line, this part doesn't have a purpose. Let me just, the name was incorrect, so I could not run it. But if it was running with the right name and it was only missing the information here, or just that one, I only cut maybe from 100 3 points or something. And if it was obviously 50, I cut 6 points. I'm sorry, 3 points for 1 and then 6 points on the 100. So this is something on this script that I'm going to show you. It doesn't take maybe a couple of minutes, but it makes your code much readable. I know when it was created, when was updated, who did it, and what is this code for as a Python script. And now here is the first statement. It says x is equal 0. So I'm doing some data validation. What is data validation? In order to make sure your script does not bomb out on the user, because different users could be entering different input to your program. Maybe your program requires 100 arguments or 10 arguments or 2 arguments. If you just expect 2 arguments to be passed on, and then the user only provided 1 argument and thought that, okay, your program is 1, and then the actual argument is the second one, the programmer, the person that is using it is not as good as yourself or somebody who programs. So they might just enter the information incorrectly. You might be expecting 10 digits to be entered. They just continued 10 digits, and then they did not go through the numbers to see this is number 1, number 2, number 3, up to the 10, and then on the 9 they press enter. So now there's put 9 digit. Your program is expecting 10 digit. It should not calculate and come up with the result, because now that would be misleading. If your input is requiring 10 digit, then you should just tell the users to enter it one line at a time or something. That way they don't make mistake of entering 11 or 12 or 9 or 8 when you're expecting 10 digit. Or you're asking for a password. And if the user just enter the username and the username is not on the system, the correct data validation is to say, well, your account does not exist. Don't prompt them for password if their account is not created on the system yet. Those kind of things is redundant. To ask one big form, some people, they do on their program, say, go ahead, all these things, and then at the end say, sorry, your account is not there. Then why you wasted that user for so much time, right? Most people are going to complain, say, I was spending this thing. If my account was not there, you should have told me ahead of time rather than asking me 500 questions. So some of the data validation that you're doing over time, it will just help yourself and make you yourself a concise and enhanced version of like code that, I'm sorry, you're making yourself is going to be more kind of elegant code that you would write, and it's going to be more concise to run and more easier for readability, for usability. All of that one is going to be so perfect, and then you're going to enjoy it. You get good comments from your end user. But if you're not asking for it and then you're running it, most likely your program somewhere is going to have problem. So that's why you do data validation. And data validation is very, very important. And with Python, there's these Python statement like try exception. So you're doing a try something when there's exception, you handle the exception. And then, for example, if I'm looking for enter any number greater than 0, this is any number greater than 0. So if somebody put 1,000, then I already told them any number greater than 0. So that should be a valid number. If I just want a number less than 1,000, then I should say any number greater than 0, between 0 and 100, or between 1 and 1,000. Whatever number I want, I should just state as so. Since this one is looking for any number greater than 0, meaning non-negative number, and 0 is okay because I'm comparing here 0. So any number greater than or equal. So this is by itself is not matching this condition. If I say greater, less or equal, Actually, that's correct. So I don't need or equal because I'm using less or equal. So I'm not accepting 0 and I'm not accepting negative numbers. Any number greater than 0, then you just uh, ask for the input. And because the input come as a string, I convert it to an integer. And then now, in order for me to say, well, the user could type in a word or a string or a character, A, B, C, whatever, and then it should have some exception handler, and that's this part, except. So when the user put this one, because input, this one, if I enter a string, this function int cannot convert a string to an integer. Therefore, it comes out with a error, invalid error, or some other type of exception. Whatever is the exception, if you run it, you will see the exception without this exception. So then in that case, you say that exception, and then you say, and this program only accepts positive numbers. And then you enter it. So now if I just introduce you first on the PyCharm, this is the menu for it. So on the menu, you have a lot of options. And one of the most important one is the settings. In the setting itself on PyCharm, you configure your Python interpreter. See the project interpreter, and this is basically the path to it. And right here, all the packages that are installed for it, everything is available to say that I'm going to run the Python um, with these modules. So some of the modules that are there. And you can click on this plus, you can just go add more modules and configure it from there, or you can use right here the terminal. There's a terminal. You could actually, let me cancel this one. You could do a terminal here, and then you get a virtual environment, Python virtual environment, and here you could run the commands. So if I just say the directory command on Windows, you will get the command. I could do help, get the operating system commands, and I could just also do pip list to just see the Python install packages, list of all of them. I could do pip install. All of those ones are available here. Okay, this is the terminal. And this one is a virtual environment. You can see here, a virtual environment. And basically, a virtual environment is inside your IDE, you have it. And then when I'm looking at it right here, if I just say, for example, inside this Python, I run Python, let's say, I run right here at open 3.7. So I could say import sys, and I say sys.executable. I could see the path of where my executable Python 3.7 coming from the virtual environment right here. Okay, so this is not the Python 3.8, the one that are coming. That's a system-wide. As you can see here, let me clear the screen and cd to the root directory. And then if I just say right here, Python, this is 3.8, right? So this one in Python dash version, this one is coming from the main. If I say Python here, and I say Python, sorry, import sys, and then say sys.executable, so I could get the list of the Python executable. This is coming from system 32 directory file, program files, Python, and then system Python 3.8 version, but it is coming from the main program files. And then the same thing if I just say version info, it will give me version information, and version by itself would tell me Python 3.8. Similar to that one, notice this one versus the virtual environment. I'm here on the virtual environment, so if I say Python, sys.version, you will see the version is from the Microsoft version 3.74, which is the virtual environment. And then sys.path, it will tell me that this is the full path, 3.7 and all that other related, but it's all within the virtual environment, like you can see here. And then sys.version info will give you the same thing, that is coming 3.7.4. So aside from that one, you also have a Python console. The Python console, when you run this one, this is the project. Inside this project, every project that gets loaded, you can add on to new Python by saying file, new, and then whether you want to put a new Python or something. As soon as you just click on this one, it will give you options of what program you want to add on to it. And then if you just say, I want to just create a new Python script or HTML or JSON, all of those ones are supported. And when you do that one, it will, like here, this one is created, another tab will be created, it will be, that one will load it also. Then when you run it, the one that is active, which is this one, then you are having these options under run. There's a list of things that you could do. Run the script or debug it or attach to the process and do this. And some of these ones that are not enabled or dimmed at this time, at some point when we are doing on debug mode, all these step over and other ones will come up automatically, will show. So there's all these other menu, as you can see, they're for helping you throughout the programming there. But here, notice, I'm going to say something like, for example, as a demo, what the IDE is. Right here, I'm here doing this. So I say import math module. And notice that the color of that is automatically different because that's a statement. And then I'm just saying math. And then if I just write something here and then do that, this math module is already a different color. The IDE is helping me say that, hey, I don't understand this long name that you put. But if I just take it out and just put that math, notice that red thing went away, the underscore was marking it as that. So now if I just do math dot, as soon as I put the dot, notice all the method that you did there, math on a command line, like here. On the command line, if I say import math, and now it's just sitting there, right? So I have to do dir math in order to know what methods are available here. So if I just say math dot, it's not gonna know that to list these one for me. I have to know this thing because this is not IDE. This is an interactive Python. So in the IDE, on the other hand, it gives you option. Before you put the dot, it doesn't know what to do. As soon as you put the dot, the IDE knows, oh, now he wants to use either a constant like pi or epsilon or something. Notice even the color of epsilon or something is different. And then the pi is different. And then the methods are different. The method normally is the method name with the parameters that it accepts. Infinity is a number, iterable. And also all of these ones, pi, and not a number. And then pow function, radians, all of those ones, you can see the constant with the C, F with the function. So the IDE is very, very good. Tuple is like a vector or something that it supports it. I am not sure if the V stands for vector or something else. No, it might be a vertex. Or I have no idea what the V stands for. But I could look into it and see next step. Okay, so so in this case, if I just do a math dot square root of this, and as soon as I put that parameter, now it's waiting for me, say, put an X value parameter that it requires. So if I put a 25 there and then and press enter, it's not complaining here. But if I just say 25 comma 5, and then if that parameter is not there, that syntax is not allowing it, it's not gonna work. Like I missed a parenthesis here, and then now I put it, it just recognizes it. So depend on what the function you're using and what you're adding to it. IDE is very smart and it finds it for you and adds on to it. So then that way you don't have to memorize all the modules. For example, if I say import sys module, and then I say, what was it, executable, execute or something. As soon as I say sys.execute AEX, notice that it give me all the list of the ones that I'm looking for. So I was like, okay, I was looking for executable, and then that would just do that. So IDE is really rich in some sense for you to program, and you will have a lot of fun because there are thousands of modules, and then within those thousands of modules, there's thousands and thousands of functions and methods with thousands of argument and parameters, right? The parameters, and then certain parameters may take certain values depending on what you do, and that is going to just be much easier when you're working with IDE. You might have already worked on Borland, C++ compilers, or Microsoft Turbo C, or C++, or Clip, Clex, or sorry, Eclipse for Java. I'm thinking of Clipper for Unix, but Eclipse, which is a IDE for Java and other related C, Perl, Python, all the things. They support the same thing. It's open source. And then there's a lot of other ones that you might have worked with any of those ones. Visual Studio coding is one of the very important one. Here's one that I use for Visual C++ code. It's called Code Blocker. Is similar. It has a lot of open source community provided. There's so many of these nice tools nowadays. When I was programming, just to get a hold of a compiler to run code to execute it, you had to stay in the school lab forever to just start doing the exercise. You couldn't run a PC with compilers, and that PC would be so costly. Back in those days, a 1 gig RAM or something was not even possible. So I'm not that old, but I mean, back in 84, 85, I'm talking about. So imagine that before that one in the 70s and other ones, people that they wrote the Unix operating system, they had to come with a lot of tools to do the same thing. So here, I'm going to go back to PyCharm. Since we wrote this code, now let's run it. Let's test it to see how it works within IDE. I told you that this is the source code. This is the entire dashboard here. Give you a canvas on the right side to just look at the view of it, of your source code. You can modify it. And then once you run it, then the output will be on the console. So at this time, I could just click on run here and just say run. And notice here, and this menu, once I run it, it just makes it for easier use, another thing. And right here, it says run which program. So I'm going to say run this. And then if I go edit configuration, here at this time, I could just say what other things I want to add on my configuration in terms of interpreter and everything. So if I just click on run, what does it do? Basically, it run the configuration and nothing else. So I'm doing run. This time I'm going to run the actual script. So my run configuration, it didn't do anything because it was all okay with the interpreter. Everything is there. As you can see, Python.exec is run against this script, and then it says waiting for me to enter any number greater than 0. So I could just type in 1, and you'll see that you say you entered 1 and by. So in this case, when I run it, enter the number, I just specify the correct number. It reads it. It didn't even come to the exception part. So if I run it again, any number I could provide, let me just say, here I could say 1,000, and then it just says you entered 1,000 by. Because I'm seeing any positive number, now let's run it with a negative number, or 0 just itself, and we write 0. 0 is not greater than 0, and then it says enter a number greater than 0. So right here, it is asking for enter a number greater than 0. I'm going to say -5. It's not greater than 0. Keep prompting me, -10. So I put -1,000. Doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's negative, it's not doing it. So what about I've put like this is this is a test. I put a string. It still says the number you only accept is positive number greater than 0. So it's right here. As soon as I put a string, because a string cannot be converted to an integer, then it comes into the exception. So this TryAccept block of code, the try is going to try this statement, but because the user chose to type in a word rather than a digit, it's going to say it. So if I just type in A here, it will say the same thing, because it says this program only accepts positive number greater than 0, but nothing else. So if I just type in any word on this one, say Wahid, Lutfi, testing, it doesn't matter. -5 is not is a digit, but it's not 0. Notice that this one is this end function can convert -5, but because it's a -5, it's not allowing this while statement to be true. So in that case, it's just going to say, well, I cannot convert it to an integer, and you have to type in there. If I was doing like absolute value of -5, yeah, I would get that one. So like here, if I just say absolute value of -5, you will get the 5. Absolute value, any negative number, it doesn't matter, it's itself a positive number. So here, because I'm not converting anything with the -5, -55, doesn't matter, it's going to say you have to give me a number other than negative or word. Once I type in the exact word, then it says, oh, you entered 10, that's good, bye. So this is a very simple try and accept error. But what it is important is to understand is this function int, if I just comment out this line, okay, I don't put any of those two statements here, and I just run it. Notice that this program will bomb out as soon as I enter a string. So right now it just says print a statement. You entered X. Okay, so let's see what the except right here. Yeah, the except part actually, it just since you were doing this, we have to do another statement. Let's say I'm not gonna do another statement like except. I'm gonna just say something like break. Not break actually. I have to do accept, and then I'm not going to do anything here. I'm going to say pass. When you say the word pass, Python does not need to run any code. It just jumps out of that statement. Like you can create a class to say pass, and the definition is going to come later. For now, I'm not going to do anything with this except part. So if I just run it now, okay, and it's going to say do this. Now if I just type in 1, it works because the try part is okay. But what if I just type in, and instead of 1, I put some word like A. And notice that it says enter any number greater than 0. I type in this, it keeps trying, but now it's an endless loop. The system does not get out till I just type in a number. So if that is the intention, you could do that one and you don't have to do this part, but it is much user friendly if you just put an exception here and say, okay, when that happens, give it an exception there. So now the user say this or A, it keeps saying that program accept positive numbers only. Now the user is aware of that. It types in a number and it gets out. Okay, so that is.
Can you have, Professor?
Yes.
Can you have more than one except statement, or is it
Yeah.
just one?
Yeah, so that TryAccept error, depending on what you're trying to, you could do try a block of code and then you do accept. There's a lot of different type of accept. And then sometimes when the exception happens, you could actually say accept invalid error. Or you're connecting to a database and then it says database is not up and running. You have either authentication is failing or connection to the database, or the database server is not up and running. All of those ones, they have different exception. So for that try, when you do it, if let's say the database was not available or the password was incorrect, any of those errors, it will just be a meaningful error saying that traceback error because invalid authentication, traceback error because invalid error. And traceback, there's a lot of exceptions in Python, and you can get a list of exceptions also from the Python there. So let me see if I could do something like this. Right here on the built-in section, if you do a dir of underscore underscore built-ins underscore underscore, you can see like all of these exception, attribute error, assertion error, arithmetic error, block error. So divide by 0. If you're dividing by 0, that's not allowed. Then obviously divide by 0 would be an exception. System error when it comes out something. There's a lot of these errors. IO error. And sometimes IO error comes out as a reading block of a sector of the disk, maybe is not readable. Maybe the file handle is closed and you're trying to read it. So all these exception that happens, you say, try this, and then when the traceback is telling you, for example, IO error, then you say accept space IO error, colon, and then you say, oh, a system IO error happened, or a system invalid data happened. I'll show you an example after this as well with the detail of it. And then let's say you could get on the help here and then try this. You can see like here the try statement that has multiple parts. So you say try the statement, you're doing try, and then when you do this try, colon, and then you do a list of commands that you want to do. On that example, what I'm doing here, say try, and then get the input from the user. So once you do the try, then some except happen. The exception happened, right? That except you do this, and then some of the expression you could see even as identifier, you could do multiple expression also. And then there's an else part of it. Try happen, if this is successful, then it runs this code. If an exception happens because the data input was expecting an integer, the user typed in a character. That's an exception. So that exception happens, this suite of code will run to say you put invalid data. Else, if this was not the case and this was not the case, then run the else part. And finally is the last one, disregard to all of these statements. You are reaching this statement. When you reach to that finally, it runs this execute disregard to whether these conditions met or not. This is sometimes when you are ending your program, say, okay, now we determine that you're not going to give me a valid input. And because I asked it 10 times and the user does not know how to type it in, maybe their keyboard is broken or something, they cannot put the data. So this finally could just give some kind of meaningful information to the user. And then, so this except E as N and all that things, you can see that sometimes this expression has to be defined ahead of time when you do that one. And then right here, define function try 1 divide by 0. Divide by 0 is not allowed, it's going to do that one. And then finally return 42 in this case. It just says that this code is going to run the 42 disregard to any cases finally. It just runs 42. And then here try, return try, finally return try. You can see that you can do multiple ways of doing the exception on multiple statements as well. So you don't have to do only this section. You can start another try exception, say if the input is not valid for this other reason, do this other one. The number of exceptions that you saw on the built-in, there was a number of them. Sometimes you might check for system error, sometimes you might check for user input error, sometimes you might check for a network problem, sometimes you might say the password is invalid, or two-factor authentication or single sign-on failed. Anything that it goes in between, you can check for all of them and then throw an exception for it. And that's why it's called error handling or data validation. And this is a big part of computer science programming. Whenever you program, the more you make your code robust, the more solid, elegant coder you will be at one point or another. So let me go to the next program. So if I just close this one and then I say file, I'm on the same directory already on the project. So let's see what directory I'm on here. Okay, I'm gonna close this project. And to close this project, they just say close project here. And then that's PyCharm comes out again. I'm gonna go to the same directory. This time I'm gonna open up another Python script from the same chapter 8. So let's see, Python lecture and chapter 8, and then we're gonna go to example 4. Example 4 is a little bit longer, but it is much more easier to understand because all it is doing a combination of packages and everything there. Let me see, I think here I forgot, it should have, I don't know why it is not showing, but let me. So here, this one, okay, import, I need to do OS, so I'm doing time, and then OS is here, so I need to do import OS, and then Now time in OS is there. The reason I'm doing time because I'm doing the system time to sleep for 2 seconds. Every time I run the code, I want to just sleep 2 seconds at the end, like right here, says time.sleep2, sleeping for 2 seconds. And this is a more nicer to tell the user what is the system doing it. So if I sleep 20 seconds or 1 minute or maybe 5 minutes and the user doesn't know it, most likely most users are going to say, well, my program crashed, it hang up, it doesn't know. But if I just say the word sleeping for 2 seconds, please wait, then it's much more intuitive for the user to just wait 2 seconds. If I just wait for hours, obviously I should tell the user that this is downloading something, that your network is slow. So the communication with your end user is a part of the data validation and error handling as well. Here on this one, I'm importing time in order to do that statement, time.sleep right there. Time is the function, and as you can see here, if I just say time.id is automatically giving me all these methods that are available, clock and everything. So I don't have to memorize that thousands of functions with different parameters and different arguments, but I could just say I need to do time sleep, for example, and I click on here like sleep, you see that it already says it requires seconds and as argument, and it is a function f. So ID is pretty cool. And then in this case, I also do import OS. So notice if I say here OS dot, and then I just say dot, and now it comes out all the function that I can do with OS. The OS module is loaded because I did here import. Now OS dot, all of these ones are there. Since I knew it, I didn't bother looking at it. I just said, okay, OS dot name is the name, and then the argument is NT. So if I'm just going on the command line here and say, let me exit out, and say import OS, and then os.name, this one will return NT. And if it is NT, then the command os.system is going to be clear screen. So, right, so clear screen, I have to close it, and that will clear my screen like it did. So right here, it says if os.name is equal NT, which in this case will be, and then it runs the clear screen command. But if os.name is POSIX, which is a Linux, then my code still will do clear screen this way. So my Python code is portable. If you run it on a Unix platform, it works, or a Windows platform. It creates the screen, and it puts this menu on the screen. This is a very basic menu. I just created in a 2-minute window to just say that, well, let's do a math module with power functions to the power of 10, to the power of 100, to the power of 1000 to see how fast the program runs. And in terms of computation, the larger this number, second argument or second parameters, argument passed on as a parameter to the math.pow function, the larger that number, the longer it's going to do the computation. And then the number keeps growing because it's a exponential number. So when you do that one and you're comparing it, notice that this code, if it runs on a VAX VMS, this does not have any else part. So the elsef part, you could do an else part here, and any other code, then you just say os.system. Maybe on VAX is also clear command. I forgot VAX VMS. I took it 30 years ago or 20 years ago, but this 20 years ago maybe. This is like os.system clear. I'm just thinking it was 84, 86, 87. Yeah. Those ones are even 30 some years ago, 33 years ago, or 34 years ago, not 20 years ago. So if the command is not there in general, this part clear is doing that one, but this else is for any other operating system, whether it's HPUX or DEC OS F1, because they're all Unix based, they run it with clear command would work. So this handles the rest of the OS that are not POSIX. Portable Operating System Information Exchange, that's what POSIX stand for. And then T stand for new technology. At one point, DOS operating system was written as disk operating system, was all command line, and then there was nothing in GUI. With Windows 3.1 and Windows 95 introduced when they introduced TCP/IP packages, and also with introducing from FAT16 and FAT32-bit, they went to FAT32, and then from FAT32, file allocation table, that's what FAT stand for. And that one get converted to the NT new technology, which is more secure file system, handle it, and now high share file system. A lot of the file system that you worked last week, whether it's Unix, Linux, Windows, they support 32-bit or 64-bit data processing and file processing and everything. So in this case, the OS is clearing the screen. That's fine. And then now I have the print menu. The print menu basically is just printing the menu, and it just have 3 options. Option 4 is not there. I left that one as your lab activity. You can practice it to add option 4. And if option 4, you want to just type in the word exit. If the user type in exit, you can match with a string and then do another try. Like I think one of the students just asked, say, can you handle more exception and handling? Yes, you could. Or you could just say number 4 for exit. And then whenever he sees number 4, then it quits out of it. So notice in PyCharm, it puts this squeaky kind of like character. It's because this space is not needed for PyCharm. And so whenever I put a space here, PyCharm says, well, you don't need it. It just shows that as a kind of issue, like a warning. So, and also if I just put something here, like a character or maybe typing something, and forgot to do that one. Now all of a sudden it detects this line, and this line has both problems. So once I fix that line, automatically it fixes the other one there. Sometimes these errors or that you're checking, you have to say that what is the root cause of this problem. Don't just say, well, a semicolon is missing because C or Java or C++ requires semicolon, and Python requires indentation, and then you did the indentation correctly, maybe not. If I just put this indentation, like more character here, let's see what happened here. Notice that PyCharm at this time is not complaining it. It did not put any error there, because up to this point is okay. So the reason this is not complaining is because Python 3.8 allows you to have more than just 4 spaces. If I just move this one to the third space right here, then it will be a problem. And if I just run it right now, this indentation is incorrect because it's not matching to while statement. Let's just say run, and it should fail on that break statement. Yeah, so notice that break statement line 30, and now IDE is really smart because it says what line is there, and it says unindented does not match any outer indentation label. So that outer layer was that while statement. I wanted to align it with while statement. I move it here and I run it, And now if I move it there, even with this multiple, let's see if it complained, because within 2.7, it was doing this one. So some of you might be doing it within the 3.8 and it's not going to complain. But if you do more than 4 spaces when it is not needed, and then it will be a problem. So in this case, that's what it should be under while statement. And I put it under while statement. So this, okay, but if I just put a space after that one, run it, it's gonna just say you put 5 characters when it is detecting only, it should be only 4 characters, spaces for indentation. So PyCharm at least detected. If your IDE or other tools that you're using does not detect it beyond the warning, when you write codes, make sure that you write Pythonic code, which means that 4 spaces. Right here I have 4 space, and then I have here 4 space, and then here, because this break is under while statement, it does not require it. And then this exception, let's say I move it 1 space here to the right, and then it will complain, I believe, because that's not the number of actually they did not complain about that, so that is fine. So let's say I go 1 here, and then right there it just throws that exception. So it tries to do the name math is not defined, because what happened here, it is not because of this, but I'm going to correct that anyway. The math function here, I did not import it. So import math module. When you do the math import, this POW function now is going to be recognized, because here I'm using math modules, math.pow. So this time I run it. Now notice that this time I'm going to move this screen a little bit higher. Okay, so if I say 1 for the input, it's going to just give me the 2 to the power of 10 is 1024, and then it says sleeping for 2 seconds, please wait, and then it run the output and exit, say bye. So 2 seconds was good enough that we could see a delay. And if I just say here, this time I'm running the bigger one with 2 to the power of 3, and 1000, that's a large number. You can see 1 point something to the epsilon value, exponential value of plus 301 e log of it, and that's what that e stands for. And so in this case, if I'm just going to run the same code, but I'm just not gonna give a valid input out of those ones. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, I'm going to give a 4. That one was not expected, is gonna prompt me. I put a 0, it's gonna say 1, 2, 3. I put a 6, it doesn't matter, 5, 1000, any number I put, it's not gonna be recognized. So the minute I say 2, it's a valid number, it's gonna execute, wait 2 seconds, and then run it again. Notice that here, I run it one more time, and this time I'm gonna give some word like this. It says now I can jump into the exception part, because what I was saying that when this input the statement reads, it reads the data that I inserted as a string, but then I'm converting it to an integer. This cannot be converted to integer. Therefore, it comes out as an exception. And then at this time, and the exception that was happening, it was happening with a value error. As value error, and then therefore I put that value error, and then it cuts it, and then it puts it this one. So if I just put this comment here, and then I say just the word except, and then put colon, I don't put the value error, because that except happened the same one as value error. I run it, and I put the input, say this, and this. Okay, let me just rerun it because the program was not terminated. I just modified it as we were there. So if this is the case, and then run it. Okay, I'm going to type in this. And then you see that this type of number between 1 and only. So it still say this one, whether you put this valid error or not. But if I just don't have an exception, and then it does not work, let me just comment this line out. And comment this line out, see if the code is still bomb out or not. So run it. F select item, okay. So this is coming because of the F statement with line 36. Line 36 is this exception, the break statement. Yeah, the try, you have to have an exception for it. Try, you have to have an exception. So if I just do this, and then don't do this for some reason, I don't try this, I say while, and then move this one 4 columns. I'm sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then break statement is going to be the for there, and run it. So now this time I don't have the try block, so there's no need to have the exception block. So if I did not have the try block and I try to say this is the number, if I put a 1 here, it accepts that it execute my code, successfully done. This is what happened to most of you when you're writing the program without any error handling. So when now if I just type in the word A, it bombs out. And then notice the bombing out, it just shows me the error. Invalidator for int with base 10. What it is doing is it's trying to run this int to convert the A that I typed in here to a base 10, and that's not going to be converted with int to a base 10. Then that syntax will not work. That syntax will not work, and then as a result, it generate that exception. So in order to do that one, you just write this try and move this one 4 column here, and then select item, and then this is the while statement. You do break, and then have the same thing here, and then this one you don't need it because we know that the value error is the exception here. So I put value here. If you find out this value error, then this is a good way to handle it. Earlier, someone asked, say that can we do that multiple exception? Yes. If a value error happens, and then you can say except value error, except something else error, system IO or error IO or something. So that is what that part would do. And then this part could move up, and then now let's do the same thing and then put A, run it again. Okay, so this one, line 30. Line 30 is break. And this while statement, while select item is this, select item. Yeah, so this break, this while statement, line 30, I didn't indent it 4 columns, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then this break is fine. because that's under the while statement, break from that while statement. So now it runs, and I say the correct input, that's fine, it works. I'm going to type in the A that bombs out earlier with exception value error. Is not going to bomb out, but it's going to just say this meaningful error, and this type of number between this accepts this type of number between, okay, this accepts numbers between 1 and 3 only. Accepts numbers between 1 and 3 only. So if I just run this one again now, and then say run, and yes, go ahead and stop it, and rerun it. Now I say A for the incorrect value is going to say this accepts numbers between 1 and 3 only. I type in any word, it keeps saying that one, till I just provide the right value, which is like, if I do 2, it's going to give me the power of to the power of 10, 100 value, and then it exits out with after 2 seconds. Okay, so that's good enough for covering exception, and I believe you learn enough from it with all these exception handling it. I'm going to also post these 2 programs later on tonight to the module that I'm covering here. I have a placeholder here that I will just put it under this, and the 2 examples so you can see it. Now let's go to Python list. So Python list, let me save this, actually automatically saved the Python things. So I'm going to just say save as Python 5.py. And then now I'm going to work on Py 5 as an example. Let's say just we write this one as to demo Python list functionality, list data structure. Okay, so in list, I'm going to delete all of this. I don't need it. In order to learn list is a data structure that allows you basically to generate an array of sequential items, and those items could be repeated as well as duplicated, as well as different data type. So in a way, less in comparison to other programming languages like C or Java or C++, less is similar to array, but in C or C++ or Java, when you say int array and then a bracket with the right bracket and type in the size of the array data structure with semicolon at the end, now you define, say, this is an integer type. If you want to do a character type, you have to do char, C-H-A-R. And if you have to do a floating point array, you do that one. Each data structure will only accept a predetermined type of either integer, string, or whatever the data type that you're supporting. But unless it supports all of them in one shot. So for example, if I just say my list is equal, I could say 1, 2, 3, and then I could say this, and then say apple, pear, and then say 5.5 math.py. So if I just do that one, sorry, math.py, and then math.epsilon. So if I just do that one, now I have to do import math to just do that one. And then if I go to this list, and notice that if I just do the same thing here, I say math dot, all of those ones are there. And then if I go square root of 25, which is 5, or whatever number, 121, that's 11. So if I just do, let's say 81, 9, so I get that one, and then I say, give me that list. Now I say, my list, if I just print it, you will see the output of it just like that, to say, okay, so this one is still running my old program, right? Because I did not close that one. So now this is the one, and let me run this one. Say run, not example 4. I want to run example 5, Python 5. And so now this on the interpreter, if I do the same thing on the list interpreter, let me just do it from here. I'm going to say import. I'm going to exit out first because you could see that it starts fresh. Import math, then I just do this line. And then I say my list, automatically get that list here. But if I do it with an IDE, my list, you see, it did not print anything. Because IDE is going to say, give me an instruction. I know that my list is there, but you want to do my list something, dot something, append to it, or you want to do it. If I want to print it, then I have to do specifically, I have to say print my list and then run it. That way I get that same output that I was getting it from the other one. So now I get that same output here. But notice here, the output that I'm getting it, oh, I told you that this is an array of different data types, being a string, numbers, floating points, all kind of different data types that it supports, as well as you can create tuples. So I could say like tuples of, let's say 10 and 5 and 55, let's say. And this is a tuple because I'm putting in the syntax of this. So I could just say that and then run it. Now notice that that one is a data structure of list, but inside of this I have another tuple data structure. So I could also create another tuple, say my tuple 1 is equal tuple, I could say, for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, 4, 5. Let's say I just do that one, and then here I just also include the other one, call it my T1. So this one is another way you could do it. And I could just create another call list 1 is equal, or just call it, let's say, sports. Sports is equal, and we say, and inside here we could say soccer, and then football. I'm going to write football like American football, not like German football, but soccer is equivalent to that. Even though the name actual football, everybody call it soccer outside of the United States. So we could call it basketball, basketball. And then put another tab, say running, just to cover a few of them, swimming, volleyball, and so on, right? So let's say just we did that one, and then here I could just also include my list. of sports. So this list, my list, has all of them. And in another list, you could create like a shopping cart. You could say shopping cart, shopping cart. Let's say shopping as one word as list. And then here inside here, you could have a list of fruits, a list of vegetables that they could also be list. So this is like list of list dimension. So I could have here call it fruits is equal and then I put the code, I'm sorry, not that the data dictionary, we're gonna say apple and then pear, and then just let's say we call it 3 of them, and grape. And right here we have a comma, because list, the way you define list, you just write the name of the list, you put in a bracket, and then the items, each item will be separated by comma, but within either single quote or double quote. So fruit sub 0 will be apple, fruit sub 1 will be pear, and so fruit sub 2 would be grape. This is how you do the list there. And the same thing here. This would be sub 0, sub 1, sub 2, sub 3, sub 4, sub 5, sub 6, sub 7, sub 8, sub 9, sub 10. The whole thing here, this one is sub 10. The whole list here, sub 11. And the whole thing is sub 12. So we could print those ones. And then let's say I need to define vegetables. So I go vegetable, and I say, let's say tomato. I'm gonna do single quote here if I want to, and then say, what is cucumber maybe, and then onion and so on. I'm gonna put carrot. So let's say you did that one. We define those ones, and we want to print also the shopping carts, shopping. So notice that shopping, I have to do exactly the way I define it, and like that, and run it. So when you're in the shopping center, shopping at the Walmart or someplace to shop, let's see, right here under 5, there's no comma here. So this would be a problem here. Tuples, you could define a blank tuple also, like my tuple as this, and you could put a comma here, or you could put empty tuple like that, and this would be also empty, or you could define it like this, empty tuple. So that is all allowed there. We will go in detail on tuples and the dictionary sometime, either Wednesday or a following week. I think it's Wednesday. So we will just cover that one on Wednesday. So let me just do this, run this. Now this one says my tuple 1, 3, 4, 5. This one is not recognized because I'm not putting it within code, right? So this one is, sorry, I need to be right here. And sometimes when you put the word tuple, or list in front of the actual parameter, that's redundant. You don't need to. So we may have to remove the tuple in front of it, like this one right here. This is redundant because we're already using this as a tuple. The syntax already there. So I don't have to say this is a string of tuple. I could have numbers as well. But I will just do this one here to show you what is happening here. So this vegetables, right here, I forgot the equal sign. So that is all, when it comes with syntax, you just have to be consistent at the typing. Sometimes when we do things fast and at that moment, it just comes out. So what is happening here, shopping, I typed it differently. Shopping, there's no T here. Okay, so this both of them worked, and notice that this one I'm going to create my tuple 2 as numbers only, not strings of characters. So in fact I could do here 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. Let's just do that. A combination of those as well as those. Since tuple also allows you to do that one, it just adds up those definition. So if I just looked at the length of this one, my list, for example, I say, let me put this shopping. Actually, let me give you an example of both. So I say, I'm going to say print length of my list. And then as you can see, my list is much bigger than the shopping. The shopping only has 2 items, so fruits and vegetables. And then they are subsequently a list. So if I say print a length of shopping, and then run the same of code, unexpected end of, yeah, because this needed to be a closed with the parentheses. So right here, the first one is 13. And most likely 12 is soccer, football, the last one, because of sport. So if I just want to do that item 12, print from the my list, and I want to do only get the sports section of it. So let's see what something on Python is called list slicing. The way list slicing works is like this. So I could say print my list sub 12, and then I could just only print that last one, which is the sports, and then print that one. Let me run it. And notice that number 12, this is a sport item 12. I could also get the same one with saying that give me the length of my list. So I'm slicing from the length, which is 13, and then the length of it -1 would be that information. -1 will be printing the same information. Let's see. Yeah, so right here you can see it. Now, if I want to just get the subsequent of this one, only want to pick up soccer, this is item number 0. This is item number 1. This is item number 2. Then I could just pick up sub 0, and then to get soccer out of that big list and point to the first one. So did not point that one and explain the end of one error because I just did not close it here. So once you close the print statement with the left bracket, you can see that. So now if I want to get the football, even though this one was item 12, but 12 is, and then number 1 of them is going to point to that one. So if I just want to get football, Control C out of that, and then get the same thing. Now I print out number 1, that would be football. And so the first one, sub 0, is soccer, then next one is football. Just a parentheses, you have to put the index and then close it there. So now if I want to do the same thing with shopping, I could say print, let's say shopping, and then if I want to do everything, I could say start with, I'm not going to specify 0 because index 0 is the same thing as length of my shopping, and then -1. Length of this -1, and then close it. So this one would say, show me the entire thing with the shopping. But notice that it just says, this one I had to put the bracket around it. So right here, I had to close the bracket because this bracket is the index of the item. Okay, -1, -1, and then close it. Now it works. So this is how you actually get that one. Let's see what is happening here. -1, temporary, unsupported operand type, minus, somehow it did not understand that one because of this bracket. And I have to do this and then right there. So what you're doing here is the length is gonna say 13 or whatever is the length is 2 actually. Length of 2, but -1 out of it was 1. So from 0 to 1, it's gonna show those 2. And then close the bracket. And then you can see that it is showing apple, pear, grapes because we wanted to do only fruits. If I want to do also vegetables, include that one, then I could also do this one, print shopping. And then I could just say start to end, just include all of it. That would print both items. And you can see this is the both items. Now, if I want to get a cucumber from the list of the 2 out of vegetables, then I need to do print. This is slicing, but shopping, since this is index sub 0, this is index sub 1, then I could put 1 and then the colon 1. That would do that, but because it's an index of array of 2 items, I have to do it like this. 1 and 1 would be the first one and out of that one. So now it's going to give me cucumber. Okay, so this is how you pick up cucumber out of that, because you're saying get to the second list. This is index sub 0, this is index sub 1, but then point in, this is index sub 1 sub 0, this is index sub 1 sub 1, and this is index sub 1 sub 2. And this is index sub 0, this is index sub 1, and then index sub 2 if it's only one list. But because it's a list within list, you have to do this one as index sub 0, entire thing. For each item, then you have to do 0, 1, 2, the number of arguments, items that are on the list. So I want to just show you slicing a little bit here, because it's easier to demo than on the PyCharm examples. So if I just here create a list, my list already has there. If I say my list sub 0, you can see it's going to print out a 1. My list, I forgot the my. My list sub 0 is going to print 1. And if I want to get the word this is 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3. So 3 would give me this. And then if I want to get 9.0, it's -1 is the last one. So a negative number from the other side, it also does in reverse order. And -2 would give me 2.7, the epsilon value. And then -3 would give me the pi value. And -4 would give me the 5.5 value. Sorry, pairs. 5.5 would be -4. -4. I said -4, but I typed -5. So, and then you go in that order, the same thing, until you get to the end of it. So, pair was -5, -6, -7, -8, -9. -10 would give me 1. So if I go -11, it gets out of bound. That's what out of range comes in. So you have to do a length of my list. And when you get the list of them, you know that, okay, you can do my list 0 to 9. Because the first index start from the 0 through 9, it will be 10 items. It will cover everything. And then if I just want to do 0 through 3, 0 through 3, this is 3, index of 0. When you're saying 0 to 3, that fourth element, which is index of 4, will not be included. So if you want to include that one, you have to go 4, and then this will be included. Because this is index sub 0, sub 1, sub 2, sub 3, but not including 4. That's what column 4 means. If I do 5, that's not including the fifth. So the fifth element is pair, that will not be included. And the same thing with the last element. If I do a length of my list, it will be a problem. Because list of my list, it will be, actually, it already find out that my list is, number of them is 10, but length of my list to colon, it's not including the 1 itself, because the last one is not there, it will not be a problem. But if I do my list -1, it will be pointing to the one before that one. So then there's a number of other things with list you could do. For example, you could do slicing. We just covered that one. There's a number of built-in function that you can do with list, which you can get from the list here, saying that dir of my list. You can see all these functions that are available to you. So let me clear my screen here, import OS, and then os.system, and then clear screen. Now I say dir of my list. I just created that list. I want to just see what I can do with that list. So if I just say my list here, I get the printout of it. Now I want to add something to the end of it. If I want to create another list, say new list, and then say, let's say, and this is a simple line of simple line. Doesn't nothing else. So now if I just say new list, because the whole thing is one item. If I do a length of that one, length of a new list, it is just only one item in it. So this one, if I print it, say new list, and then start to end, it just says that it's only one line. If I say 0, it will do the same thing. Make sure it's not set up. Okay, so this is a simple line, and this is a simple line. As you can see that it prints it out because that list is there. Now, what if I want to do append the two lists together? Remember, to a string, you could do a string 1 is equal, this is a test, and then say a string 2, this is also a test. And then you could say S1 plus S2, it will just say both of them. And if you wanted a space between them, you could say a space and then plus another time. So appending, concatenating words together, or statements together, or lines together, you could do this one. With list, for example, my list has this one, and new list is there. My list plus a new list is just going to add the same thing into one list. So that plus symbol, it does append it to it as well, right? So if I just say, now say my list does not have that other one, and new list does not have a new one. So if I want to make them into one string, like here, I have to say S3 is equal, and then just say S3 now has both of them. Same thing here with new list. New list of this two list where I added, I could say list 3 is equal, list 3 is equal this, and then do a list 3 now, it will have both of them. So I could also add by using these methods that are available. So dir list 3, for example, if I want to just add on the back of it this duplicate list of my list to just make a copy of it or something, I could do that one. So let's do extend. Say my list 3 dot extend, and then I could just extend any other list. I could say Wahid Lutfi likes to play soccer. Even though these are individual item in the list, they're not one word, you can just do things with it later on to make them work like that. Now, list 3 dot extend has these items, and I just said dot extend, but list 3 is having all these items that were added there. So now length of list 3 is much huge compared to the previous one. And then notice that if I just say list 3 dot pop, if I want to remove it, only took the last item from it. So every time you run the pop, it will just remove the last item. Okay. If I want to just remove more than a last item, so pop without any parameters, it is last in, first out. Whatever was last in on the stack, it picks up first one of them from the top of the stack. That's what the stack data structure is. But if I do want to pop from the beginning, like let's say I say what is left on list 3, I have these data, I could just say list 3, I want to pop up a number 1. So then I could say list 3 dot pop, let's say 0, it just, I put the index of it. So that is going to be in there. Now I print out list, the 1 is gone. So now let's say I want to just pick up the word this. This is a 0, this is 1, this is 2. So let's, number 2 will pick up the this, and list is gone. I mean, list 3 is not having the this word there. So you learned extend, and you learn how to do the pop, and let's do more. List 3. If I want to make a duplicate copy of list 3, so let's say list 4 is equal list 3 dot copy. It just make a copy of list 3 as list 4. So now list 4 and list 3 are identical. And there. And then I could say list 3 dot index, and let's say index of 5. Which one is number 5? List 3 dot index. Oh, so let's say index help list 3 dot index, and index expected at least 1 argument, and then I say give me the 5th one is not in the list. Okay, so when you're looking for index, the number has to be on the list. Now if I just say list 3, I have 5.5, and then I need to put 5.5 here. Sorry, I put a comma there rather than 5.5. Now it's gonna just find out and not help of it, but getting this. List 3 would just give me that, and then say 4. So if I say look at list 3 again, list this one would say 3, but I have to put it in exactly like this is a string. I have to match that one, and then let's see one other trick that you could do. See if it does a math.py. Yeah, see that this is math.py 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that is still converting this one. Then it says, oh, you're looking for this number. And then it will just say the index of. So this one is, and instead of remembering all that long name, I could say list 3 dot index of this number would give me epsilon value, which is number 6 as value of the index, or I could say math dot epsilon, it will say also 6. Really nice. So this one is the last one, 7 and 8. So if I want to get the word this, and now this is a longer test. What if I do say let's start with, and then the word this. It starts with, and the S is missing. Let's see, a list dir of list 3. Start with actually is not with the list, but it's with a string. So S1, yeah, S1 dot starts with, and this function is only on the string. You could do that. And then it says yes, true. If I change that one to say Wahid, it's not true, false. So start with is an attribute of a string, not list. So with list, and now you see that there's a number of options you can do. Like, for example, list 3 has this item, or my list has this item. And then if I just say, and do on my list, the number of count of the word dot count, and the number 3, how many are in the list? Is there as only going to show 1. So now if I just say my list dot append, add number 3 one more time, and then run the same command, count is going to say 1 because that one is not a number 3, there was a string 3. So now it's going to say 2. And then same thing if I just keep adding this one, 3 comma 3 comma 3 comma 3 comma 3 that many times, it's not going to allow it because this is append only takes 1 argument. So if I want to do that one, I need to do extend, and then define this one as a list. And then pass it on as an argument to that function. And now say my list has that 3 so many times. So now if I say my list dot count, the number 3, that's 1 time 2 3 4 5 6 7. 7 it should return, and that's what it does. But if I look for the string 3, it's going to say 1, which is this one. So this is different than this integer 3. Now if I just want to print this list in a kind of like an array, in the for statement is your friend. So you could say for item in my list, and then say print item. Each item will be printed 1 line at a time, and you can see that they are there. And you could just also do comparison. You say if my item, let's say if max of my item is greater than 1, then print my item. So if max of this one, my item, actually not my item, so I define it as item. If max of item is greater than 1, then print my item, and int object is not iterable. And so let me just see what is, yeah, max of item. Oh, my item, yeah. I just don't know why I used the my twice when I didn't have that variable there. For item in my list, print item. Let me just get that one first. That gives me this one. So then I say, okay, you could say if the word apple and an item, then print that one. Print item. Argument int not iterable if apple and item my list. Yeah, since this one is not a string, this one would be a string, it would be okay. So I could say, for example, S1, if I say if S1 and then I say, was this 3 there? Yeah, if this and S1 print found the word this. So you could do that, and then it will report it. But on the items that are not iterable, you could do my list already has their other functions, other method that you could search for. Like for example, count was one, copy index is clear. Clear is to delete the list. So for example, let's say my list three is there, and I just say list three dot clear, it will just clean it up. It's no longer there. And the I'm sorry, on this one, you have to use that as a function, and it's empty now. It's like you popped everything. But to delete actually the list, you could do the del list three, and then that object is no longer there. But with the earlier example of iterable or not iterable, you can see that there's some method that you can check for certain things within the list. And like for example, the length of it, less than sign, greater sign, all of those ones contains these methods, or they're called the dunder methods. So let me do help underscore list dot underscore underscore doc. Um, okay, so the under help list. The list by itself, when you do that, when all the methods that are available for it is showing here, and then contains is that if the list has any key that you're matching for, return that self if it then does have the key. Contains delete item, add items. Add is like adding two of the values together there in the list. You could also use this way of like doing it. Let's say list one is equal one, and two, and then list one dot underscore add underscore, and then I want to do another 2 comma 3 or 3 comma 4. Now the two lists are in the list one was added with this, but you have to, when you just do this one, you have to assign it to a new list. So list two has both of them. List two has that thing. There's a number of other methods there, but let me talk to another discussion that I mentioned on the class about list, and that's a list comprehension. I will just look at it here. Yeah, list comprehension. So we did discuss list slicing and a lot of these built-in functions. Let me show you what is list comprehension. List comprehension is actually a very nice tool for automation, for making your system robust whenever you need to define a list. For example, I could just create a list out of one list by extending, copying it. If I just want to do os.system clear screen, if I want to just create a list of all the natural numbers that are greater than one and maybe 1 million numbers, and then I just assign them to a list. The easy way to do that one is say my list. If I do this one, my list is empty, right? So delete my list. Now my list has nothing. If I want to create my list as a number between 1 to a million, then I could just say create a list out of a range of numbers 1 to 1 million. So let's just do 1 to 1,000. just to show you how they just get this one. So now my list has all the numbers between 1 to 1000. My list. You can see that it's 999 is the last one, right? So now if I want to do the same thing with my list being 1 million, so 1, 2, 3, that's 3 zeros, 4, 5, 6. And then I want to just skip between them to 1000. So otherwise it's going to just be so huge. If I just did that one and my list, now you see the biggest number here, but even though I skipped it and the list is so huge. So this range function, it allows you to generate that number, but now between 1 and 1 million. So let's just make this one a smaller number between 1 and 1000 and escape only 100 of them. And so each 100 you could have a list. My list, notice that this number is more easier to read, but I want to just say, okay, I did this one. I'm looking for numbers between 1 to 901. So let's make that one to a little bit bigger, to 2100. And then my list. So os.system, and then I'm going to do a clear screen. Before I talk about list comprehension, I want to show you what you can do with a list with example like this to just generate that number, my list, by doing this 1 to 2100, but skipping each 100, so up to 1 to this. Now, if I want to just get only the list of positive numbers that are between these two, let's just make it another shorter example. You get it from 1 to 100, and then skip only 5 digit. So my list has that. Okay, so 1, 6, and then 11. So jumping each 5-digit number between them. If I do that one, and I just say, okay, and that is good, but at the same time, what if I want to use a list comprehension to generate that one? I could say something like this. I say, x for x in range, this one, and then just do that. Now my list has the same number. This is called list comprehension. Once inside a list, you're declaring an expression, and then you go to a for statement. You say, for this expression and range of this, do this. If I want to just get between 1 and 100, all the numbers, and then say my list now, notice there. What if I'm only interested in on the even numbers? So I could say this, and then there's a if statement here. You could say x for x and range 1, 100, if you're looking for even number, if x mod, my statement is here. So yeah, so you say if x mod module 2 is equal 0, then give me those numbers. So now it's only giving you the numbers within the same range, the one that's divisible by 2 there, the even numbers. If you are looking for odd numbers, you just change this one to a 1, then you get the same. My list now is a list of odd numbers. So list comprehension give you for expression, a for statement, and then F for comparison. you could do that. And for example, let me do a start a system, clear the screen again. So you can see a simple example here. And this one, if I just say x is equal, and just create another list, say x to the power of 3. Okay, x to the, this is a POW function in Python. Double asterisk means x to the power of 3. And then you say for x in one range of 1 to 100. If I just want to get that list of comprehension and then say, show me each number, but multiply that number to the power of 3, so up to 999, and then let's just include 101 also. That way we get the number readable at the end. Easier to read it. So now if I just say x, notice this one, it says x to the power of this. Because I'm not jumping between a range, it just did the first one and then the last one. So if I just say for x to the power for x and range, I forgot the range here. Range here, then you could just do this. It will automatically assume a step of 1. So now x is going to be a larger numbers. So notice that 1 to the power of 3 is 1, 2 to the power of 3 is 8, 3 to the power of 3 is 27, and so on. Up to 100 to the power of 3 is 100 with 3 zeros. Actually, 1,000, 1 million. Because you could see also import math and then math.pow and 100 to the power of 3 would math would be the same number. So this one, if you just want to do like something else, and here you say only show me this, and also if x is greater than 50. That way you could just get the list only starting at 50 and up. Or you could get to say if x is greater or equal or less than. All these operator symbols that you're doing is you can do comparison up to certain numbers to do it. And if I just want to know less than 10, and that is the first few numbers, you can see that up to that, and 10 is 1,000. 10 to the power of 2 is 100, 10 to the power of 3 is 1,000. That many zeros. If it's 10 to the power of 4 is 100,000. 4 digits. And so let's see what else we could do with list comprehension. We talked about, and built-in function we talked about. Okay, I think I covered all the things that I would have covered on this session with slicing, and we did everything here already. And then one other thing that I will mention about Python tuples and data dictionaries. We will talk about that one also next time. So tuples is similar. So if I create my tuple is equal, and then you, instead of brackets, you use parentheses, and you could put the numbers in between them. You could put multiple data and different data type, and so on. It will all support it. My tuple now has that one. So my tuple start to end, and the syntax for slicing is the same thing. and my tuple sub 0 would be the first number 1, and my tuple let's say this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 would be this. And then if I say dir of my tuple, you could see that it has a list of commands that are there. Now, the other list that I created, x, if I say x dot size of, this one is a built-in function that returns how many bytes and that x stores. And if I just do this dot my tuple, it says that one. And the reason is that when you do dir x, look at the list of the functions that are available with it, and look at the list of my tuple that are there. List has a lot more functions, and also the size of it is there. So when you're working on it, tuples that they have, or tuples, some people call it tuples, doesn't matter what you call it. It's basically a data structure that allows redundant element, but each element has its own index, and it's almost like a read-only. Once you define it within that index, you cannot go and modify a list, tuple content. So my tuple is this, and x is this. I could say x sub 0, and I could say the sign is equal to Wahid, and now x, I just look at it, I just modified the first element of that one to this. So a list is mutable, but tuple is not. So now I could say my tuple sub 0, and I just want to say assigned to Wahid or something, whatever number, it's not going to allow it. It says tuple object does not support item assignment, which means it's a read-only or immutable. Immutable means that you cannot change the element of it. Yes, you can define a new my tuple and assign only one element to it, say Wahid here, and that's fine. That will allow you, but you modified that earlier tuple, which was all these two, to just be pointing to a different data structure, except you use the same variable. This is a pointer to that data structure. So in other programming languages, you also have abstract, union, and other concept of data structures called abstract, and then you have an object-oriented programming classes as well as abstract and union. But in Python, you have these data structure called a list, tuple, set, data dictionary. You will be able to do all of the same data structure with other programming language you support. On top of it, Python also has object-oriented, which you can create class, and you can manipulate elements and attributes and instance of a class. Each object has certain properties and certain methods that you can apply to them. So going back to tuples, if I just say my tuple, now notice that commands that are there, my tuple as this is the list. My tuple is there, and then type of it, my tuple is actually this is a string. So let me just say my tuple, and then is equal. That's why this list of method that becomes, it surprised me to start with, download. These ones are actually string. So if I just say Wahid and then one, let's say, it's not going to allow this one unless this one is a tuple in that. So even though this element is a string, I need a comma in order to define a tuple. This earlier, when I was doing this one, it just created a string because this one does not have a comma after it. It has to be at least more than one element, or I have to have a comma. So if I just want to assign an empty list, tuple, I still have to do the right syntax. Now if I do type of my t, you could see it's a tuple. And if I just say dir of my t, this one is smaller. And if I look at my t, these are the two elements of it. So my t, I could also define it as one element like this empty the list. My t is there. Type of my t is the same thing as tuple, and dir of my t, the same thing. If I want to just say my t, I could also say comma like this, and then let's see, my t, and then okay, yeah. So if I do that same thing earlier I did, I could do this one Wahid. If I just define this one as a string, this is type a string. This is very important. So this is a string, but if I just do this one and put a comma here and no other attributes, and now I do that the same type, now it's a tuple. So my t now is pointing at the tuple data structure because of this comma. So at syntax here, this one is a string data type. Even though I put it in like a tuple kind of format, but because I did not have a second one. The minute I just do a comma, whether I put a next one here or not, is still my t is still tuple. So if I say type my tuple, then this says it's a tuple kind of data structure. And dir of my tuple would be still allowing me all these methods that are there. And then notice that it has a count, it has an index, and other parameters that you could do with it. We can check the size of the length of the my tuple dot underscore underscore length, and then underscore underscore would be the same as my tuple or length of my tuple. And those methods that are there, all of them, you can practice with it and look at it. As a reminder, you can always use a dir command to see what methods are in the built-in functions that are available and what you can do with them. So that's tuples. With data dictionary, I'll do also data dictionary a little bit. Data dictionary is a data structure that is key pair value. So if I just os.system and then I say clear screen, data dictionary in Python, the way it is I say, let's say D1, dictionary 1, I could just say, for example, inside braces, I could have a key pair value of a student, for example, a student, or let's say first name, and then say colon, and then whatever the value it is. Let's say I type in Wahid, and then comma, and then another key I'll call last name, and then colon, and then this value of it is Lutfi, and then favorite sport. Let's say I could say favorite sports and soccer. So if you use the left, you use the single quote, make sure you be consistent with it. Otherwise, it's gonna not work. So here, this one is a dictionary. One is the syntax on data dictionaries. You put a variable that you assign this structure, and then this structure is start with the braces, saying that this whole structure contained within this braces, and then each key pair has a value for it. So the key F name, first name, is the key, the value is Wahid. Last name, L name is the key, Lutfi is the last name. favorite sport is there. So if the key is there, you could access it, and then the way you access it, and instead of saying D sub 1 sub 0, that doesn't mean anything in dictionary. So you need to do a D sub, sorry, D1 sub, the name of the key, first name, like that. And then that way you could get the dictionary there. Last name is the key. And then favorite sport. Notice that if I just put in lowercase, it doesn't recognize it. So you have to put it exactly the way, it's like a hashing key. The sport, for that one, there's a hash as a character for it to print out the exact hash key for favorite sports. So when you do that one, and D1 sports, I could say also for item and D1, and then print item. Notice this one, it will just give me first name, last name, sports, but I did not get anything with the actual value. So if I want to get the value for it, I could say for key value and D1. So I get the key as well as the value. Those are the unpacking things. I'm going to also show you packing and unpacking either today or Wednesday. We already did with some other examples, but I'll explain what's packing and unpacking is. So in this case, D1 is the dictionary. I'm getting it into two different variables. Then I say print k comma D1 sub k. I don't need the V actually there in order to do that. Let me just say print so I don't need to this and say print k comma D1 sub k. And you can see that because k is pointing to the first name, the keyword, then it says first name is Wahid, last name is Lutfi, and favorite sport soccer. You could get it like this and print it out. Okay, it's 9:27. I have been talking forever. And then let's just take a 10 minutes break. When you come back from the break, you're welcome to ask any individual questions or anything that you want me to cover a little bit more, or you could just work on the assignment and the activity that was assigned for this Wednesday lab time, and then we will do some of it again on next Wednesday lab time. And then if addition time is allowed, you're welcome to work on it at your own time as we go. There might be some other question of midterms and finals and other ones we will discuss, because next week is the 6th week, and next week I believe is the last week for the semester, or maybe after that, when I have to check on the syllabus when is the last day of the classes. But everything else will be fine. We're almost there, and then we are covering chapter 14 sometime next week for sure, and maybe we're starting Wednesday, and that would be object-oriented programming. Wednesday we will be discussing more tuples and data dictionaries. That way you have more understanding of it, more examples, everything, more functions and everything. And then there's some assignment, the project one, a few of the students had question of what is project one or something. So I assigned that one with project two, and those two of them are due on the 20th, which is a week from this week, next Monday. So I moved it, and instead of being due tonight, I moved the project two also to be due on the 20th. If any of you have any question, you're welcome to ask now or take a 10 minutes break, come back at 9:40 and then ask question if you have question. Does anybody have any question? Okay, if not, we're also having the office hours tonight at 9:50. Those of you that wants to ask a specific question, please stay after that one, join in on the office hours. You're welcome to ask any question that you want me to address specifically to yourself or to the class. Okay. Thank you so much for listening, and I appreciate all of you joining in. Since everybody is there, I see all the 10 students participated. That's great. Take a 10 minutes break and then come back at 9:40. We continue on. Thank you so much.